I was wide awake when it happened. Not from caffeine, not from nerves, but from pain, the kind that lingers after surgery. Just 3 days ago, doctors removed a tumor from my abdomen. I was recovering at home alone in the quiet, with nothing but soft lighting, the hum of a white noise machine, and a stubborn ache that refused to let me sleep. At exactly 2:17 a.m., my phone lit up.
Subject line: confirmation of property transfer. Congratulations on your sale.
I hadn't sold anything. My name is Olivia Blake. And that email, that was the first sign that everything I'd built, everything I'd protected, was slipping through my fingers. With shaking hands, I logged into my investment portal and froze.
3 brownstones in Westridge, a small apartment complex in Riverdale, 4 properties, gone.
Properties I'd acquired over the years with care and strategy, worth more than $1.4 million. My name, replaced. My signature, forged. Thomas? I whispered, nudging my husband's shoulder. He groaned, his face half hidden in the darkness.
What is it, Liv? It's the middle of the night.
Someone sold my properties, I said quietly.
All of them. They're gone.
He sat up quickly. But when I turned the laptop toward him, something flickered in his eyes.
It wasn't shock. It was guilt.
I stared at him, breath catching in my throat. Your family, I said, my voice tightening. Your family did this, didn't they? He hesitated. Liv, I'm sure there's an explanation. Dad and Connor, they stole from me. I cut him off. They forged my name and sold everything I built. What Thomas didn't know, what none of them knew, was that 5 years ago, my grandmother made me add a secret clause to every single deed.
Always protect what's yours, Olivia, she told me.
At the time, I thought she was just being overly cautious. But now, looking at the man I'd shared a bed with for 7 years, I realized she'd seen this coming long before I ever could.
I need to call Nora, I said, grabbing my phone. Your lawyer friend Liv, it's the middle of the night. Let's talk about this like a family.
I stared at him, the stranger in my bed.
We passed family the moment you decided I didn't matter.
And just like that, I wasn't scared anymore. They'd made a catastrophic mistake, and I was about to show them exactly who they'd underestimated. I never changed my name after marriage. I was Olivia Blake long before I met Thomas, and I intended to stay that way.
By 9 a.m., I was sitting across from Nora Kim, my best friend since college, and one of the toughest real estate attorneys in the city.
The sun was barely up, but her office already smelled like fresh coffee and quiet war. She flipped through the documents I'd brought with her signature intensity. These look real, she said, eyebrows furrowed. Too real. Whoever did this had access to your personal files. The signature is nearly perfect.
Thomas has access to everything, I replied, my voice low. She didn't say anything, just nodded.
Then I reached for the second folder, the one my grandmother had told me to keep in a separate safety deposit box. Just in case. I handed it over. Nora read aloud. Any transfer of this property requires the in-person verification and notarized consent of Olivia Blake, formerly Olivia Wu, with government-issued photo ID and live signature. Any transaction failing to meet these requirements is automatically null and void. Ownership reverts immediately to Olivia Blake. She looked up at me slowly and smiled. Your grandmother was a genius, she said. And this clause, Olivia, this is bulletproof. These clauses were properly filed with the county, she continued. They should have come up in any standard title search. So how did the sale go through? Either the title company was negligent, or your in-laws buried the clause on purpose. She was already drafting an email. Her fingers moved fast, her brain even faster. We can file for an emergency injunction. These sales are invalid. My phone buzzed. Thomas. My parents and Connor are coming over tonight. We can explain everything. Please be reasonable.
I turned the screen toward Nora.
She didn't even blink. Do not reply, she said. And don't go home tonight. I nodded, heart racing. Then I whispered the fear I hadn't dared say out loud.
If they did this, what else might they have touched? Nora didn't hesitate. Let's pull your credit reports. Now. 1 hour later, the room was dead silent. 3 credit cards, a home equity line on our house, a $250,000 business loan guaranteed under my name for Connor's failing startup, none of which I had signed. This is systematic, Nora said, jaw tight. And there's no way Thomas didn't know. I felt sick. Betrayal doesn't always come as a scream. Sometimes it comes in a spreadsheet. Another message buzzed in. Thomas' dad says you're overreacting. The properties weren't making money anyway. Connor just needed temporary help. We'll talk when you calm down. That was the final nail. He knew the properties were profitable. He'd seen the reports. This wasn't confusion, it was a coordinated theft. Call Detective Rivera, Nora said. Now. As I dialed, something shifted in me. This wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about truth. About reclaiming what was mine. And honoring the woman who taught me to protect it. Detective Rivera was calm, efficient, the kind of woman who had seen too many families do terrible things to each other. She listened carefully as Nora and I laid out everything. The stolen properties, the forged documents, the loans, the betrayal. Her eyes scanned the files page by page without interrupting. Then finally she said, Unfortunately, this kind of fraud within families happens more than you'd think. But the scale, the premeditation, that's rare. She tapped the clause on the deed copies. These restrictions give us a strong foundation for legal action. I'm filing a criminal report and forwarding it to the Financial Crimes Unit. My heart was pounding. My design studio, Harmony Interiors, I began. I was counting on rental income to pay the mortgage. Nora placed a hand over mine. I'm filing for an emergency injunction today. We'll freeze the transfers before any more damage is done. We left the station and headed straight to Harmony. Maya, my assistant, was surprised to see us. I thought you were out next week, she said. Thomas called yesterday. Said you were going on your anniversary trip. I stopped cold. Our anniversary wasn't until October. It was barely June. Maya, change every access code, now, and remove Thomas from all business accounts. She nodded and got to work. While she called the bank, I checked the numbers. Relief washed over me. Harmony's accounts were untouched. Thomas never paid attention to the studio. He had always dismissed it as Olivia's little passion project. He didn't realize it had become a 6-figure business. That ignorance, it saved me. By late afternoon, we had secured the business, frozen the property sales, and documented every trace of fraud. Nora handed me a cup of tea. You're staying with me tonight, she said. No arguments. I nodded. I didn't have the energy to argue anyway. But one thing nagged at me. I need to get my things from the house. Clothes, documents. We'll go tomorrow, Nora said, when Thomas is at work. You won't go in there alone. That night, my phone lit up again, and again, and again. Thomas, live, please. You're blowing this out of proportion. His mother, Eleanor, family finances should stay private? Connor dad said you agreed to invest. What's the big deal? I didn't reply. I forwarded every message to Nora and Detective Rivera. Document everything Nora reminded me. Don't engage. As night fell, I sat by the window in Nora's apartment, watching the lights across the skyline. 7 years of marriage, 1 daughter, countless dinners, vacations, birthdays, all built on lies I never saw coming. But they had miscalculated one thing. I wasn't a woman who collapsed. I was a woman who rebuilt. The clause they ignored, that was their undoing. And this was just the beginning. The next morning, Detective Rivera drove us to my house. Thomas's car was gone, but the damage, it had already been done. The front door creaked open. The air inside was different, emptier. Wrong. We walked through each room in silence, until I saw it. My desk drawer, the one that used to be locked, had been pried open. Important documents were gone. My grandmother's emerald necklace gone. Other jewelry missing. Rivera took out her phone and started photographing everything. Make a list, she said. Every missing item strengthens the case. In the kitchen, something stopped me cold. A notepad. Thomas's handwriting. Sloppy, rushed. Meet Dad and Connor at 7. Transfers complete. Explain to O after. Explain. As if I were a client or a child. I took a photo. Just as we were about to leave, Mrs. Liu, my elderly neighbor, walked over from next door.
"Olivia, dear," she said softly, "is everything all right? I saw people moving things out of your house yesterday."
My stomach dropped. What people, Mrs. Liu?
A woman and 2 men. They had a small truck. They took boxes, some paintings, a TV. I thought you were moving.
Do you remember what time? Around noon. The woman kept calling one of the men, Connor. Rivera took her statement calm and professional.
But inside me a storm was rising.
They were clearing me out, even while I was discovering the fraud. They were already packing up my life. Nora shook her head. They're liquidating. Anything easy to sell gone. But why, I asked. The Harrisons are wealthy. Right. She looked at me. Maybe they were. Not anymore. Later that afternoon, Nora's phone rang. She answered and smiled. The judge granted the emergency injunction. The property transfers are frozen pending full investigation.
I let out a breath I didn't realize I was holding.
They're coming back to you, Olivia, she said.
The brownstones. The apartment complex. Every key I thought I'd lost was now being handed back.
Then something unexpected happened.
A call.
Ms. Blake, the woman said. My name is Rebecca Winters. I bought one of your properties last week and just got a notice about a legal issue. I put her on speaker so Nora could listen. I don't want trouble, she said. But I do want to help. Eleanor Harrison. She gave me strange assurances. Now I realize it might have all been a scam. Her voice was calm, but honest, and that honesty would strengthen our case. Nora thanked her and asked her to send over all documents. That night, Thomas texted again. My dad's lawyer says your deed clause won't hold. Stop making this worse than it needs to be. I didn't reply, because it was already too late for warnings. They'd looked at me and seen someone easy to dismiss. A designer? A wife? A woman with nice things and soft boundaries. But they were wrong.
I wasn't just the woman they betrayed. I was the woman they underestimated. And now, I was the storm they couldn't stop. 1 week after it all began, I sat across from Michael Park, a financial investigator with the sharpest mind and the coldest facts. He opened his laptop, eyes steady, and then the real story of the Harrison family unfolded.
They're broke, Michael said plainly. Thomas's father remortgaged their house last year. Their investment accounts almost empty. Eleanor's real estate firm has been losing money for 3 years straight.
I stared at him speechless, but it didn't stop there.
Connor's company, Fusion Tech, burned through over $3 million. No revenue, no traction, nothing but debt. I remembered their smug smiles at family dinners, the dismissive tone when I talked about my rental properties. Cute little side hustle, they used to say.
And yet, they were the ones drowning.
Behind the designer suits and luxury cars was a house of cards, and they had tried to prop it up with everything I owned. What does this mean for recovery? I asked. Michael sighed. The court voided the fraudulent sales. You have your properties back, that's the win. But recovering compensation for the stolen funds and identity fraud, that's going to be hard. They don't have it. I nodded slowly. I'm not chasing crumbs, I said. They already took enough of my time. I want it back. Later that day, we got another update. Thomas had agreed to cooperate with prosecutors. He was going to testify against his own father and brother. The man who had lied to my face was now trading truth for leniency. And strangely, I didn't feel rage, just an emptiness. And somewhere in that emptiness, closure. Thomas had always been about self-preservation. He just finally admitted it. Then the call came. Detective Rivera had found a storage unit rented by Connor. Inside electronics antiques and my grandmother's emerald necklace. I held it in my hand that night, ran my fingers across the stone, and I realized something. They didn't just try to steal from me. They tried to rewrite who I was, but they couldn't, because the most valuable things, they weren't locked in deeds or bank accounts. They were in me. My foresight, my independence, my ability to rebuild. Those weren't gifts. They were earned. They thought they'd taken everything, but all they did was set me free. 3 months after everything fell apart,
I stood in the middle of a warehouse, empty, echoing, and full of promise. It was going to be the new home of Harmony Interiors. Twice the space, high ceilings, natural light, a corner in the arts district where creativity lived and breathed. It wasn't just a studio, it was a beginning. Nora walked alongside me, running her hand along the exposed brick. "It's perfect," she said. "You've got room to grow, to lead." I nodded, looking toward the mezzanine. "Upstairs will be my living space. No more commuting, just creating." Since the divorce finalized, I'd sold the house in the suburbs. It felt freeing. The money combined with restored rental income had funded this. Every wall, every tile, every light fixture, chosen by me. My phone rang. I almost ignored it. But the name on the screen stopped me. Caroline Jenkins, CEO of Meridian Development Group. "Olivia," she said, "we've reviewed your proposal for the Riverwalk project, and we'd like to award Harmony the full contract." I didn't speak for a second. It was the biggest commercial deal I'd ever touched. "Thank you," I said, voice steady but heart pounding. "When can we meet?" After I hung up, I turned to Nora, still in disbelief. "We got it." Her eyes lit up. "Olivia, that's huge. Meridian is the biggest developer in the state." I finished for her. And now, I wasn't just rebuilding. I was leveling up. We left the warehouse as the afternoon sun slanted across the pavement. I caught my reflection in a window. Not just older. Clearer, straighter, calmer. The betrayal hadn't broken me. It had revealed me. The woman they tried to tear down had returned smarter, stronger, and utterly unshakable. They thought taking from me would shrink me, but it only made space for something greater. They thought my business was a hobby. Now it was about to be featured in every major publication. And me, I was done surviving. I was building something that no one could touch. Not again. 1 year after that sleepless night, I stood in the heart of Harmony Interiors' new headquarters, a space I had built from the ashes of betrayal. The lights were warm. The room buzzed with energy music and the quiet sound of success. It was our grand opening reception, and every inch of the warehouse-turned-design studio reflected one truth. I had turned survival into art. Caroline Jenkins walked beside me, admiring the space. "This is stunning, Olivia," she said. We knew we picked the right firm. Harmony had completed the Riverwalk project under budget and ahead of schedule. Now we had 2 more contracts lined up. The name Harmony Interiors was spreading. And for the first time, people weren't just seeing my work. They were seeing me. Nora approached, champagne flute in hand. "The reporter from Design Quarterly is ready. She's in your office." My office, glass walls, custom wood desk, a painting of my grandmother's hometown behind me. Powerful, transparent, personal. The journalist smiled warmly. "Ms. Blake, thank you for meeting with us. Your story is already a legend in design circles." I smiled. "Just a lesson in preparation and starting over?" She asked about the fraud, about the clause, about how I turned a personal collapse into a business empire. I answered simply, "My grandmother taught me to protect what I value, to prepare without fear, to live openly but with eyes wide open." She nodded, then asked, "How did you avoid becoming bitter?" I paused. "I don't see myself as a victim or a victor," I said. "I see myself as someone who rebuilt, not just what I lost, but something better than what I had before." Later that night, as the last guests left, I climbed to the rooftop garden above the studio. The city lights shimmered. The air was cool. And for the first time in a long time, I felt still. Below me was everything I had reclaimed and everything I had created. Maya, now my creative director. Michael, who structured our growth. Nora, friend lawyer, and now co-founder of the Blake Foundation, helping women protect what's theirs. I thought about that midnight email, the betrayal, the theft, but more than anything, I thought about the hidden clause. The one my grandmother insisted on. It didn't just save my assets. It revealed my strength. They thought they could take what was mine, but all they did was set me free.